And hello, everyone, and welcome back to Words I Choose to Live By here on Amazon Live. I'm Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could be with us. And we're joined by our co-hosts. We have Tina Siemens, Melissa Banks, and Dr. Velma Bagby. We're glad you all could be with us as well. If you guys are new to us on the Amazon side, make sure you guys hit that follow button. It's a great way for you to support the work we're doing here. You'll see it either here in this corner or down below. You will also will see my book, Words I Choose to Live By, and the books by our co-hosts as well. We are simulcasting our broadcast, so we do welcome those tuning in on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, X, and on Instagram. Hello to you, Herschel. Good to be able to see you over there on the IG side. But ladies, how's everyone doing today?
Doing great.
Morning. Very good. Thank you.
Good. Well, look, glad to have you all with us. Everyone, we're in week number 43 in my book here, Word That Choose to Live By. I was just saying to my co-host, it's a great topic for all of us. This is something that was a process for me to be able to learn. But the topic is he wants what's best for you. And of course, we're talking about our Heavenly Father here. But this is the message for those who have their print edition of the book on page 127. It says, you were created to be a living masterpiece. Your Creator shaped you the way He did for a purpose. He knows more about you than anyone else ever could. He wants nothing but the best for you, and you can have it, but you have to want the same for yourself. I was saying to the ladies, it's an important lesson, but it is not something that has been easy for me. You know, as someone who grew up with insecurities, feeling less than, it was not easy for me to think that I had a purpose or could do great things. But as I got older, and I would say by the time I was 21, I realized that if God created me, He created me with what I needed to get the job done. It's just up to me to be able to embrace that. And that's what I've been trying to do now every day. So that leads us then to our co-host. Tina's going to be kicking us off with this one. Tina, how has it made you feel to know that God has given you what you need to get the job done?
Well, like you said, it is definitely a process. I looked up the definition of living masterpiece, and that it says that we need to consciously decide every day who I want to be and how I want to do that my life. And so for me, talking about insecurities, my height has always been an insecurity at 5'9". It's all of my friends that I usually am around with, they're all a lot shorter. So that is an insecurity. So really thinking that how God created me is the perfect masterpiece. He said in Genesis 1:27 that it is very good. At the end of His 6-day creation, He said, all the other days He said it was good. But then at the end, He says it's very good. And that's when He had already created man. So I am grateful for the opportunity to continually work on being that living masterpiece. Even Mona Lisa, which is considered the world's best masterpiece in the art world, even that canvas has another image underneath. So it does not require us to be refined on day one. It allows us to make mistakes and then just regroup, rethink, and then make that conscious decision again that I am a masterpiece. And so every day is a renewal. And that has been definitely the journey for me. And it continues to be the journey because we will not conquer it ever. I don't feel any of us will never totally feel like that we are a living masterpiece on every given day. So for me to know that there's that grace period is just such a cushion, because yes, we do want to strive and we do want to, if we fall, get back up, but to become that masterpiece that we were made for is truly a blessing on a daily basis.
Such a great point. Such a great way to kick us off, for sure. Stephanie, hello to you over there on Instagram. Glad you can join us. Melissa, what about for yourself? How has it helped you to, as Tina was talking about, to recognize yourself as a living masterpiece?
Well, when I read this message for the day, it just kind of hit hard. This is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So I've been thinking a lot about my journey and the days of domestic violence in that period where I was, I didn't feel that I was a masterpiece. I didn't feel I was worthy. I felt the words of my abuser. And that's why abuse is because they continue to tell you what you're not. And because they tell you what you're not, so often you begin to believe it. So to believe now, when I wake up in the morning and I thank God that I believe in my core that I am a masterpiece, I still can some days get up with a heavy heart, get up feeling like, oh, if I could just do it a little bit better, or if I could just be a little bit better. Those days are still here. All these years later, they're still here. And some days I can feel it. I can feel it, and it's very real. And I thank God that journey, that part of my journey, when I think about it now, I grow from it and I move through it. But I still feel some emotions sometimes because life is not always easy. Life is not always, oh, I'm a masterpiece and I'm feeling great and I know I got it all together no matter how I show up. But I do know that I show up every day and I get up with affirmations. And that's why you hear me talk about affirmations so bad, because that so much is because they remind us. They remind us that we are worthy. They remind us that we're not working to get it. It was a gift from God and we had it when we were born. We have to just believe it. And that's the key to this message to me, is that you have to want it. You have to believe it, and you have to want it for yourself. And that's, to me, is the key. If no matter how many times someone else tells you you're worthy, no matter how many times someone else tells you you're enough, until you believe it in here, regardless of what you see, then you are not going to feel it. So to me, that is the key to believing it. It's wanting it so badly for yourself, not needing someone to pour it into you, because God already gave it to you. You don't have to earn it. It's yours. It's free.
Yeah. Pickett, teach hello to you over there on IG. Appreciate that, Melissa. Great thought. Dr. Velma, what about for yourself? I mean, the idea of your being created as a living masterpiece, has that been easy for you to accept?
Not at all, which is one of the reasons I'm doing what I do. When I talk about the woman of worth, the wild woman, that's the reason. Because years of having to discover it myself, and then I came into my 20s, 24, really truly discovering and embracing who God says that I am. And as I minister to women over the years, close to 40 now, I'm just amazed at the number of women who don't feel their worth. They don't feel like a masterpiece. They don't know that this is how God created them. And men too, Cyrus, so many don't know what God has said about us all. And I hear in all of your testimonies this morning how you shared when you came to that moment where you discovered that this is who you are. This is how valuable you are when God created you. And so I'm just amazed at the number of women who don't know, who don't have it, who have not embraced it, who are not feeling this masterpiece, let alone not feeling their masterpiece, let alone anywhere near a designer original. And so it's hard to see. And it's hard to recognize that there's so many who still have not discovered it. And that's why I'm glad we're talking about this today. What I love about our conversation is, as I work on creating an affirmation book, one of the ones that Melissa contributed was Ephesians 2:10, which talks about you are a masterpiece. But like she said, and everything we've been given is still a choice. You either choose to believe it or not believe it. It's still a choice. And it's sad that so many people still have not chosen to accept who God says that they are. And you're so much more valuable than you believe. But you have to discover it, you have to accept it, and you have to choose to claim it and declare it every day, like Melissa said. So I thought about, when she mentioned Domestic Violence Month, I thought about a time when I had to minister to a young woman who was in a very bad abusive relationship. And I think about her often because I watched her not receive anything that I was saying to her. And I watched her walk away knowing that I was not going to see her ever again. And I didn't. She actually moved, and so no one was able to get in touch with her. And I often think about her and pray about her, but there are situations where people just don't believe, just don't receive it, just don't accept it. And that's the sad part. So I'm glad we're talking about this today, because it needs to be said, both for the men and the women. You are who God says you are. And until you see it and know it and choose to accept it, then people are going to stay in that same place of not believing how valuable they are.
Right. And I appreciate all of your honesty. The Real Lady Extreme, hello to you over there on Instagram. I want to continue this conversation with another point, and it goes to something Tina kicked us off with, Melissa reinforced it, and Dr. Velma just said it too. And I want our audience to get this. Yes, we are all co-hosting this show. Yes, we are all, being able to motivate others, but we also still have to motivate ourselves too.
Yep.
So none of us have it all figured out. And none of us do it perfectly. I love the fact that Tina says, it's a process. Melissa said it's a process. I want to talk about that point. Melissa, I'm going to kick things off with you on this. What has it been like for you to give yourself grace for not always recognizing it in yourself? Because I think a lot of times we beat ourselves up too severely for not, and that then reinforces more negativity. What has it been like for you to embrace the fact that you're not, as you mentioned, going to always see yourself, but that doesn't stop you from trying?
Oh, wow. This is a good question. This is really good right here, because one of the things, we are harder on ourselves than anyone else is going to be. I know that I can be really, really hard. So when someone asks me, what is my process? How do I keep going? This is one of the first things I say is I give myself grace. I say, Lord, I am not where I need to be today. My faith is feeling weak. My heart is feeling weak. I'm focusing on everything that's not going right. First of all, I just admit where I am. We think we have to be perfect, and we're always thinking right, and our mind is always on success and not the negatives. But that's not the case. And when you just acknowledge that, just by saying, I know that I am not where I should be today, and then rechanneling it. You hear me talk about getting back on track, replacing those negative thoughts with something positive, having someone to go to say, you know what, I am just not there today, that that's going to pour into you and encourage you. Or have something right that you can just pick up and read that reminds you, because we all need it. You are not perfect, and it's okay to not have a perfect day. It's okay not to have a perfect moment. It's not okay to stay there. That's not okay. So you go to your inspiration wherever you find that inspiration that gets you back on track. Just admit where you are, then do the things you already know you need. Be prepared. You hear me give an analogy of my emergency management career, where we already knew what our steps were when the emergency was happening. We didn't wait for the emergency and then run around and figure out what we're supposed to do. We already knew. So I say to anybody, already know what you're going to do on those days. Already have those books on your shelf, or that person, even though he may be hard on you, but he's going to tell you the truth, and he's going to feed into you and get you back on track. Have those affirmations handy that you can just say over and over and over again that gets you back on track. But yes, it's okay to get off track. It's not okay to stay there. So give yourself some grace, have your process in order, and then do it and change that information and change that channel.
I just want to say, she said he. She wasn't speaking about me. She meant he or she. I just want to help. I don't want you thinking that you're talking about me.
Oh my gosh.
I was thinking that's probably who she's talking about.
See, I was trying, so I had to clarify. See, Tina, because I wouldn't want people thinking I'm the one.
I didn't call no name.
No, she did not.
There's only one he on the screen, and that's why I wanted to make sure.
That is funny.
What about for yourself? As we've talked about, we're not always going to feel, I know I don't either. We're not all going to always feel like we're the masterpiece. What has it been like for you to acknowledge those feelings, but to, as Melissa was saying, not to stay stuck in them?
Right. I wrote that down because that stood out for me from what Melissa said. Don't stay stuck in it, because we're all going to have those moments. I mean, Tina talked about recovering from an injury. I recovered from an injury last year, almost the entire year. It took me that time. And I kept reminding myself it's not going to be this way always. God's got something on the other side of this for me. I kept reminding myself, and that's what Melissa was saying. You have to reinforce what you know God has promised you. Again, it is a choice. You've got to know that you have a choice every day. We choose everything that God has given us to do and say, everything that God has said about us, everything he's spoken into our life. We choose to receive it or not. And so by reaffirming it, declaring it, speaking it out loud, saying it to yourself, sometimes I sit in meditation reminding me of, okay, God, you said this. I know you said this. I'm saying it to him, but I'm reminding myself. And so it's important for us to do that. And I thought about a couple of things that you have in for this particular one. For throughout the week, you have some really key buzzwords that I thought was important to remember, that it's a gift for you. This is a gift. I see that in what you have for Tuesday. You are a gift from God. You are capable. All of these things are affirmation that you have already written following this particular topic that we're talking about for the days of the week. You've given affirmations for that. And so it's important for us to know that every day we can reinforce what God has said about us. But we must, it's a choice that we choose to do it every day and remind ourselves. So that's what I have to do. Even when I'm not feeling well, I have to remind myself of who God says that I am and what I can have.
Such a great point. Such a great point. Tina, back to you with the same question, because you kicked it off with us, reminding us about you. And I love the Mona Lisa example. What has it been like for you to acknowledge that every day you're not going to feel like who you were created to be, but not staying stuck in that space?
Well, like you said in the beginning, that God knows more about me than anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
So often, and I know again, we women get stuck more on the physical body that we were given, and we often struggle with the physical. So we think that, oh, if I just had one more new outfit, or if I just had 5 extra pounds that I could lose, or just that extra, we're always wanting. We feel so often we're just a little behind on where the ideal. And we live in a world that is hyped on the physical appearance so much. But God created us the way we were. As I was saying, that my height is one of those things. I didn't give those inches to me. God did. So he knows me better than anyone else. And so for me to accept how I was created is I think the biggest battle. No amount of exterior apparel or anything that I can put on will speak as much as the confidence in my own ability that I am enough. God has created me just the way he wanted me. And for me to realize that that is the gift that every human being has been gifted, then the battle is already won. And so we just have to, like Melissa and Dr. Velma both have reinstated again and again, that it's a choice. And so for me to choose, I am enough because my creator created me perfectly. And he said it's very good. And
Yes.
so for that is a journey that we will continue on. And for us to be able to be an open book and for the world to see that we are working toward this goal is a testimony in itself. And that, like a couple of weeks ago, we had, there is no testimony without a test. So this self building and self affirmations that we give ourselves is the test. And so therefore we have this testimony of, God, thank you. The way you created us for a purpose is just the perfect way. And so I'm so grateful for that.
Yeah, such a great thing, and such a great reminder for all of us. So then, Dr. Velma, that leads us to this. What would you say to our audience about the importance of recognizing the masterpiece that they are and not letting anyone take that away from them?
Going back to what you just said in the beginning of that statement, recognizing, discover what God has said about you. And once you do, you can create those affirmations, like Melissa said, to remind yourself every day of who you are. You are so valuable to him. He reminded David, I created you before you were formed in your mother's womb. I knew you. And so therein lies what he says about us. He already knows. He knows the things we're still discovering about ourselves. God already knows how he wired you, why you think the way you think, why you approach challenges and decisions the way you do. God created you that way. And the sooner you embrace that you are who he created you to be and accept who you have been created to be, all your gifts and talents, abilities, all of it, even your calling and your assignment, you will live so much more victorious by accepting who God says you are.
Love that. Thank you for that. For you, Tina, what would you say to our audience about the importance of recognizing the masterpiece they are and not letting anyone take that away from them?
Just embrace it, believe it. Because if I don't believe in myself, then how can I portray for somebody else? I can go tell others all day long that do this, do this. But if my words, if my walk don't match my words, then it will fall on flat ground. And so if we want to produce, then we need to be ourselves the example. And so for me, that is the ongoing quest for my life, to just always less of me and more of God. So if God shines through me as his masterpiece that he created in me, then I will be able to do. So no matter what geographical place that he has set each one of us, or the abilities that he's given us, we have the choice to make the most out of the gift. Do we want to go and bury it, or are we going to multiply it? And so if we multiply the gifts that he has entrusted us with, then he is going to also give the increase for those gifts. And that's what we were born for, is to not only live for myself, but to live as an affirmation, as a vessel to that which God created. And that is a masterpiece.
Yeah.
Love that. Such a great thing. And Melissa, same question to you. What would you say to our audience about the importance of recognizing the masterpiece that they are, not let anyone take that away from them?
I would say one of the things that I do is I quote God's promises. When I'm feeling scared because I have a situation going on, or if I'm feeling less than anyone else, when I'm feeling just overwhelmed, one of the things I do in the mornings is I begin to just remind God of all the promises he already gave me. I remind him of who he says I am. Mm-hmm. And then that moves me forward. I think what happens is what I said at the beginning, is whatever voice in your head you're listening to, that's what you lean into. And that's why it's so important to say those things out loud, not small whispers, not silent in your mind, but out of your mouth. If you say it out loud, it sows into your spirit. And when you have those moments of not feeling worthy, I mean, even today, I have all these tools in my belt. I know that I am worthy. But even today, on certain platforms, I will start feeling insecure. I will go back to that voice that I used to hear a long time ago and draw into myself. I will not have the confidence and the knowing that I am just as worthy as everyone else sitting here, because God created me in his own image. And when I start to remind myself of those things, that's when I can move through it and get back focused, back believing in myself, back knowing who I am. But you have to get yourself back there when you find yourself slipping away. Recently, I had an issue and I found myself just walking through the house out loud, saying how afraid I am. This is not going to work out. I'm running out of time. I was saying those things out loud. And you know what happened? That's what I started believing. But when I got still and I said, Lord, you got it, because you told me that you got it. You told me that you would be there for me in every single situation. I started to remind him. And what that did was that brought me back to believing that I'm here for a purpose. And this situation is not the end. It's not going to stop me. It's going to work out for my good, because that's what he promised. So when I get myself back to that place, that's how I'm able to move forward. That's how I'm able to believe that I'm here for a purpose, and that I'm here because I am worthy, that I am enough. Whatever I bring to the table is enough, and it's what I'm supposed to be bringing.
Love that. Great reminder. And I want to say to the three of you, this is a perfect opportunity to do this based on the book, that I am so glad to have the three of you on this journey with us here with Word That Choose to Live By. Each one of you are definitely a masterpiece, and you have something that is so powerful and great. And I'm so glad we get to share it here. So I just want to publicly say again to the three of you, thank you for being the masterpiece that you are. Thank you for believing in yourself and trusting me on this journey. and for being a part of this weekly program. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for having us, Cyrus.
Oh, well, thank
Absolutely
you.
a privilege.
So now you all know it wasn't me that Melissa was talking about, because I'm the nice one. That's
Okay, we'll believe that.
yeah. Again, everyone, week number 43 from my book, Word That Choose to Live By. I have it highlighted for you guys. Ladies, again, great job today. Tina, let our audience know how they can stay connected with you.
Well, they can stay connected with me by contacting me at seminalthebook.com or just on any social media platforms. You can find me as Tina Siemens, and I would love to hear from you.
All right. Thank you for that, Tina. Melissa, let them know how to stay connected with you.
Well, as always, it's easy to connect with us at themelissabanks.com. Listen to some of the inspirational interviews we have with other women to encourage you and to motivate you and get you excited about being who you are. All of our platforms are right there at themelissabanks.com.
Thank you, Melissa. Dr. Velma, how can they stay connected with you?
You can stay connected with me by going to drvelmabagby.com. I'm on all the social media platforms as Dr. Velma Bagby, so look forward to hearing from you.
All right. Again, thank you all again. Really appreciate you. And we thank your audience for tuning in to another great segment of Word That Choose to Live By. Until next week, you all make it a great one. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.